Hello darlings, I am Cassandra. Welcome to my channel, Authentic Beauty Handmade Dolls and Crafts. In this video, I am going to tell you why Black mothers, African American mothers, ruin their sons' lives. Now, this is a video that I have been wanting to do for a very long time, but I have been so afraid to do it. Because I feel like as Black women, we already have the burden of the world on our back. And for somebody to come and say that what we're doing is not good enough, I just think that's kind of like who do you think you are? Like, do you know how many jobs I have and how hard I work? But I want to just share this because I think this video may help someone. It may actually save somebody's life. So there are 3 things that Black women do to ruin their sons' lives. And I'm going to, share them, and hopefully, I don't know, I have a son, and there are a lot of lessons that I needed to learn. So one of the things that Black women do to ruin their sons' lives is they call him Momma's Little Man, or he's the little man of the house. And I feel like that is, he has to be a child and a baby before he can be a man. And I know that when people say, oh, little man, or he's just, Mama's little man, he's the man of the house, or I feel like, he's not the man of the house. He needs to have his homework done. He needs a bedtime. He needs nurturing. He needs guidance. He needs to know that he is protected by his mother. Now, I know people are thinking like, oh, what about the father? What about this? Like, listen, first of all, guys, I am a mother myself, so I'm not blaming women, but I just want to say this. The default sex, the default is female. Like, nature has to defeminize and masculinize a fetus in order to turn into a male. It takes more for nature to make a male because, everything starts out female. Now, I'm just saying this to say that I think that women have superpowers. I do. I think that we are the foundation of humanity, and there's something special about us. And I feel like sometimes we try to compare ourselves to a man and try to in terms of, well, I can do what a man can do. Of course you can do what a man can do, but should you do what a man does? That's a whole nother issue. But the point I'm making is this. I think that as a woman and as a child's mother, we have a lot more power in how that child develops. So, one, he's not our man. We can't refer to him as a man. He's not our protector. I know a lot of little boys like to grow up and think, I can't wait to take care of my mother, look out for my mother, because a lot of the males in the African American community, either they're not working or maybe they're in jail. So you have this little boy who wants to fill those shoes, but he does not have the tools. He does not have the psychological tools yet to fill the shoes of a grown man. So he first has to be a child. So I think that as Black women, we need to make sure that our sons know that we are there to take care of him, to look after him, to provide for him. He is not our the boyfriend we never had, or the husband we never had. It is not his place to take the role of a man in the house before we first give him everything he needs to be a strong human. So that means, being really, firm about curfew, about his homework, about his chores in the home, letting him know that his role is to develop. Like, you want him to be self-reliant. You want him to have confidence in himself. But this is going to come from him being taken care of first and foremost as a child. So it's kind of, one way to look at this is that if you were to take, let's say, a flower or a seed, and you were to dig it up before it developed, it's not going to develop, right? So you have to nurture it and water it and take care of it so that it can bloom first. So we're not giving our young black males, and specifically African American males, an opportunity to develop as human beings, as children, so that one day he could grow into a man that someone would be, who would make a great husband and a great father. So the second thing we do as African American women to ruin our sons' lives, and guys, I am so guilty of this, I just apologize to my son, is I think that because a lot of us are single parents, and or the fathers are not as prevalent in the child's life, I have found myself, I have been verbally abusive. Like, I'm that mother, when I get upset, I'm MF this, and and I really feel proud of myself after I feel like I have just said something to put my son into submission, to let him know that you're going to do this. And it's usually about school or taking out the garbage, or I mean, he's a grown man now, but I realized, well, sometimes I feel like the women in his life, not presently, but I'm just going to say this because I want to get anybody in trouble. I can hear when somebody else is being abusive to him. And one day it clicked that was me. That he is attracted to women who are like his mom. And so, yeah, and I was like, I need to change so that he will have a partner who will respect him and speak to him in a certain light. So I think that being a single mom, I would become extremely frustrated, and saying things verbally that I thought would inspire and motivate him to grow into this healthy, strong man. I really feel like in a lot of ways I hurt my baby. And his thing is, I apologize to him for that, because I told him, I said I was doing my best, and I thought that I was, being a really good mom by, giving to you and hoping that you'll, know that you need to do what I say. But so I just think I could have said things in a more positive way, in a more self-affirming way. And I think that when we speak to our sons in a way that, on the one hand, he's the man of the house, on the other hand, he's been talked down to. And I feel like it's so confusing for him and difficult for him to have healthy relationships with women, because on the one hand, he doesn't really know how to deal with a woman, because we can be verbally abusive, and we think because we're women we can say whatever we want to say, but no one can say whatever they want to say, without thinking about how our words are going to emotionally and psychologically affect another person. So anyway, I feel like he's the man of the house, but then he becomes a boy when he didn't take the garbage out. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I just kind of feel like these are areas as a black woman that we should be a little bit more aware of. At least, I've taken that journey for myself, for my own sense of responsibility. And the last just for this video, thing that I think that we do as African American women to ruin our sons' lives is we worry a lot about them. I had a spiritual director once who said to me that constantly worrying about my son was bringing a lot of negative energy to him. He said that there is something very powerful about a mom. I just want to keep her in focus. There's something very powerful about a mother, and what we think about our child, we manifest in their lives. So let's say, for example, that you're worried about police brutality, and that is what you think about all day, something happening to your son, then you're likely to bring that on to your child. So he told me that whenever I am starting to worry about my son, he says, don't worry about him. What you want to do is put a golden bubble of protection and send angels to watch over him. He said, and even ask, when you create this golden bubble of protection to surround your son, he said, even say, protect my child from my own negative thoughts and my own worry. So what I do now, and this has been for at least a couple decades now, because my son is like 27. When I think of my baby, I always put a golden bubble of protection. I put a white light around him. I send, this is seriously, a trillion, gazillion, billion band of angels to watch over him, protect him, and keep him safe. And I also send a diamond fire to surround him and protect him. So this way, as opposed to me worrying that something negative is going to happen, from my own energy, or me thinking of the worst case scenario, I always send him an abundance of protection. And I also give my son protection gemstones. Yes, I do. I have candles that I use that are protection stones that I use for my child, and I'll show you how to do it in another video, where basically I write my family members' names down, and I put the concentric circles around the name, and I burn a candle. Sometimes I'll try to do something like that maybe once a month. So those are things that I can think of that I do right off to protect him. And I think that when I was watching Basketball Wives, and I can't think of the wife's name, but she was talking about how she feared for her son's life, that, I don't know, I feel like God was talking to me, because I had been thinking about making this video for months, at least 4 months, but I did not have the courage to make it. So again, this is my little courage doll, and I really feel like this needs to be said. So one, I would say, as an African American mother myself, and I do think that what happens to African Americans is different from what happens to black people who are maybe from other parts of the world, because we've had a very different life experience. One, I know that we're trying to raise him to be a man, but he has to be a child first. Two, I think that we talk to our sons in a way that is demeaning, and it erodes his self-esteem, and it plays out in other aspects of his life later. So I think we should think about how we talk to our child, because we don't want to just, tear him down to build him up. We want to build him up. And then lastly, I think, we worry a lot about their safety, which is, of course, we know the history in this country, but let's start doing things to put circles of protection around our kids, around, we can do this for males and females alike, but I feel like there's just a different kind of worry for our sons, especially in America. So I hope this video helps somebody, and I hope that it was not offensive. But anyway, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.